Your dad has a great line in his book. Supposedly, the lighting crew, when canceled because of the budget, agreed to drop their fee from $39,000 to $5,000, and all of a sudden, the production truck went from $28,000 to $11,000. And your dad wrote, "Quote: I'm not sure if we just did a poor job in the first place, or if business is so bad that these companies are desperate for work." But it is remarkable to think, hey, I paid 39 grand for it last week. Now I can get it for 5 grand. Hey, I paid 28 grand for it last week. Now I can get it for 11. Whew. Impressive.
What's impressive?
That you were able to keep the same things in place with a new budget and save a boatload of cash somehow. That's awesome.
Well, I appreciate that. But the fact of the matter is, and you'll understand this once you sort of peel back the layers of the onion. Man, I've used that already too much. Getting too granular already. But the lighting bid that came in originally was for touring.
Yep.
Nashville's a unique city. It's the hub in so many ways, geographically located. All the tour buses here. It's Music City.
I already know where you're going to go. You're going to say it was a Wednesday. That shit could just sit on a shelf and collect dust, or it could come make some money down the street.
Have you ever heard that line before, Conrad, from me? But it being in Nashville, geographically located, it was a Wednesday. But at the end of the day, you got to remember there is no production gig like professional wrestling in the world. What is a weekly? I mean, it's kind of amazing. But the TV truck, as opposed to traveling all over the country, they could park it in Nashville. And if they got gigs on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, then they're going to drive here, drive there. Well, a couple of different truck sources we used were based in Atlanta, based in Birmingham. But again, when we said, no, we're Nashville every week. And guess what? We're in a financial situation. I need you to go rock bottom. Well, how low would you, and you've been there, hey, Jeff, we understand we're in it for the long haul. Again, a lot of these vendors had been through that WCW and made boatloads. And me and David Crockett ought to have a sidebar about how much money vendors have made over the years through professional wrestling. And I'm sure AEW can attest. I mean, it's a great gig from a production point of view. It's literally a cash cow. But with that being said, they would say, Jeff, how can we make it good for you? And I'd say, is free in the cards? Oh, well, wait a minute. But these guys were great partners. They wanted the long haul. They wanted us to succeed because I had a very good relationship with them, even before TNA had started. But as I went through it, they knew that, okay, if we can pull the nose up on this thing, and I can tell you, there's a couple of vendors that to this day will say, we bent over backwards to make it, but God almighty, did that thing pay off for us? Because I'm not jumping too far ahead, Conrad, but when we got to Orlando, another fixed location, there wasn't a lot of upkeep, and we got that check sent to them like clockwork. So it all worked out in the end, but a lot of vendors, candidly, all the vendors, completely understood, and they said, we're in it for the long haul with you, Jeff.
You're working on a ton of business deals to add cash flow. A closed circuit television company is projecting a $300,000 to $1 million influx of cash regarding broadcasting. And this is all regarding broadcasting shows to sports bars. Did you ever think this was even possible? This is a big deal for a company like yours.
Not that kind of revenue, but look, we were turning over every rock. And if we can get a deal, I always thought any money that comes in from sports bars at this stage of our career, great. If it's profit, it's profit, but it's also exposure. It's getting the product out there. But like any salesman or company, their projections, and they had no baseline to go off of. Okay, let me do some research. Well, what did we do for the fight last week? Whether it was boxing or, last month, and UFC wasn't like it is today, but they had no way to give accurate projections. And I knew that. And I think they knew that, but we were, being a Wednesday night for a restaurant, and they could get it, the DirecTV package, super, super cheap. We were wanting to create as much revenue as quick as we could across the board.
So we should also mention in your dad's book, there's a phone conversation between you, Vince Russo, and himself with Vincent Kennedy McMahon regarding Jay. And it said in your dad's book that McMahon considered you and Jerry friends. Is this the first conversation you had with Vince since that night in Cleveland, or am I confusing the timeline?
Well, I'm a little confused by that note. I just don't have an in-depth recollection. Like, as we read the notes, why would Vince get on the phone with us? That's why
well, if you remember, Jay Hausman had been,
he worked for Bonnie Worth, and okay, so we're going to tattletale on Jay.
Yes.
He worked for Team Services. Okay, big deal. That doesn't do anything about our revenue today.
My point was, I'm not asking about your revenue. I'm asking about
the call.
It's an awkward. I mean, listen, you walked out on him a couple times. You're probably not his favorite person, but he used to when he was.
See, you guys, you're still buying into that BS.
Well, you put a pea shooter in his belly. We've talked about it.
Huh?
You put a gun in his stomach. We've talked about it.
Okay, here we go.
Remember, and Eddie Guerrero got doused with coffee by Eric Bischoff.
Oh my gosh. Has the statute of limitations run out? Can there still be litigation over the coffee?
I don't know. There should be. We should bring up Eric on charges.
I agree. I mean, Folgers.
It's offensive.
Last drop.
It's hurtful. It's dangerous. This is the first time you've talked to Vince like this, though.
Again, I'd love to tell you that my memory is fantastic. I don't remember anything in detail. I don't. Sorry.
Let's talk about July 26th. Your dad would write there's a meeting between you and him and Health South. And he writes in the book that he thought you painted a gloomy picture of the company.
Did he or I did?
He thought you painted a gloomy picture of the company in the meeting. You think it's the other way around? You thought he painted it gloomy?
Just knowing our immediate history, what would you say?
Yeah, I think you're the eternal optimist, and he's more of the quote unquote realist.
Yes. Okay.
You're a pie in the sky dreamer. I feel like you're one of those people who's looking up at the clouds and accidentally runs into a telephone pole. Like just walking, just looking, and then bam, like one of those deals.
Yeah, that may be a bad trait of mine, but no, I do not recall. Matter of fact, every conversation I had with Health South, again, you have to be the Jay Hausman. They asked me 1,000 questions and I spouted right off. But at the end of the day, that line of credit was in place. Richard was confident that, okay, he we're going to make this work. And hey, here's the situation. And when you reduce a budget from, because this is what I recall about the next round of calls. Hey, Health South, you know that, and I'll just say, is it 240, whatever, 250, 260, 220, whatever that budget was that we had per show. Guess where we're at today at the fairgrounds, and we're going to be delivering the show every Wednesday live. Oh, it's just under $100,000. If you were an investor, Conrad, what would you think?
I don't know.
Yeah, not knowing the business, but them being the financial partners, of course they're going to ask. Now, can you have a show for that much? Yes, sir. We're not traveling, and here's this. Right. Well, what about your lighting bill? It went from 39 to this. Yep. I've got a great relationship with them. They're in it for the long haul. When your camera, your truck, yep, that's that. Okay, so get through all that. So what's your rent on the building? Oh, we took it from Burt Prentice, the lease, and he had to run 4 shows a year. We're going to run 52. So the fairgrounds is elated. Okay, you got all your insurance covered? Yep. Okay, let's talk about talent. Well, here's the situation. Everybody took a pay cut. Okay, so that's how you win it from $250,000 to under $100,000. So that's the type of conversation that that was had. And, my father writes, I painted a gloomy picture. It's just not accurate.